have a safety meeting for March 31st. Do we have a roll call, please?
I will now commence roll call. Commissioner Takayama?
Present.
Commissioner LaRocca?
Present.
Commissioner Hernandez? Chair Baez?
Present.
Chair, we have a quorum.
Okay, I'd like to have the pledge of allegiance, please. We have our new member over here on my left. Start off with President.
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We need correction for our last meeting on the 24th, but since we don't have a quorum for that, there's only two new ones. We have to table that one for the road, right?
Yes, Chair. There are two new appointed members to this commission, and we have another member that's out today. The two new members were not present in the previous meeting, so we would recommend tabling the meeting minutes to a future meeting.
Okay. No, we have do we have any speaker cards?
Chair, we have one speaker card. Speaker is Raul.
Good evening, good afternoon. I come to speak about the intersection of 6th and Whittier Boulevard. A few city council meetings ago, we had a presentation about signal lights that are gonna go there. And I think the presenter was more interested in colors and designs and everything else than they were for safety, because on several occasions, I've been going south on 6th Street and I stop at Whittier Boulevard to make a right-hand turn. I look to the left, and unfortunately, the city has allowed them to put a platform out there with some barricades. They've got planters up there with plants and everything like that. You can't see the traffic that's coming, especially if you got some big eaters there sitting there. You can't see the traffic. Various occasions, I started my right-hand turn, and a car comes out of nowhere and blows their horn at me. Today, I was taking extra precautions, looking and looking, and the car behind me blew the horn at me to move. And I felt like a good American. I felt like opening the door and giving them the finger, because I'm trying to take my time and be safe. I don't necessarily remember anything about that at the meeting. Like I said, they were more interested in patterns and colors. And to solve that, I think it's going to get worse if you put the signal there, because traffic going on Whittier Boulevard, they're going to think, well, we have the right of way, or we don't have to look or anything, the green light. I think the only way to solve that is maybe on the traffic light, put a red arrow that you can't make a right-hand turn, or put a sign that says no right-hand turn on red light. Because otherwise, I've had a lot of problems there, and I'm sure other people have problems too. And I take my time because I want to be safe. And you know, I don't know why the city allows them to put all those plants and everything there. It just blocks the view. And I suggest very strongly that all of you take a ride and see what I'm talking about. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other?
Chair, we have no more public comment cards at this time.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're gonna go to our next item. Would be the item 2, the always study on 66th Street and Walnut. Do we have a presentation?
Mr. Barnes? Caesar?
Thank you, Chair.
This report will be given by Mr. Dennis Barnes, our traffic engineer.
All right. Good evening, Commissioners. Each of you has a copy of the report, which I'm going to go briefly through to kind of summarize the key points in the investigation that was done by staff. In the beginning of the report, we have the recommendation there to receive and file the report that was done. And we have some recommendations that I've made to deny the request for the all-way stop and to approve some additional recommendations to install red curb. Some of the background information as presented in your report, we received a request to do the investigation. There was a request for an all-way stop at this intersection. To give some background information on how the all-way stops are approved, information was extracted out of the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, which is adopted in the state of California as well as throughout the country. And some of the key points that I'd like to point out is that you have 5 or more reported accidents. Typically, those are the right angle type accidents. It can be left turn or right turn as well. And then we also, it's been established, there are certain vehicular volumes that are required to meet the warrant criteria that's been established over the years, done by research of other engineers, and this is the information that we use today to evaluate those requests. Typically, you have to have volumes of 300 vehicles out of any 8 hours of a day from both directions going into the intersection. On the major street, on the minor street, you have to have in the same 8 hours 200 vehicles, bikes, or peds. So that's a substantial, really, number of vehicles. Where would you see an intersection like that, for example, be something like Montebello Boulevard and Beverly? You would meet those kind of volumes. There are some caveats that if depending on the approach speed, they give a reduction in some of the parameters. So that information, those criteria was considered. And then the investigation based on that information, counts were taken to see if does that intersection meet that criteria. And unfortunately, the results indicated that no, it did not. There's another criteria that we look at, I mentioned, was the accident information. There is a free online tool put out by Caltrans and local assistance where we refer to as TIMS, and anybody in the general public can access that program. We use it to identify the accident database maintained by the state, and then we zero in on that particular intersection to find out what the accident history has been. In addition to the accidents, we look at sight distance as well. Unfortunately, we looked at the accident data and did not have any accidents for that location. To give a better overview of the location, I've included pictures in the report starting on page 11, I guess, of the overall report, but page 3 of your individual report, the aerial view, and then also provide street views depending on which approach you're coming from on each page to give you a little feel for it. Now, that's not the condition when if you go out there today at 5 o'clock or 5:30, you're going to see when people are home from work, you're going to see more vehicles, of course, on the street. With that in mind, I'm going to go on to the next page, page 5. I show another view as such. After looking at all that, then the next part of the investigation is do the analysis and compare the collected data that was done, traffic volume-wise, counts, accident, collision data, and make a decision, does it meet the criteria or not? If not, what else can be done? At our last meeting, we had exposure, or we had a presentation on the daylight law, which is installing a red curb on the approaches and departures at intersections. That can enhance or increase the line of sight, especially in the later hours of the evening when as car and motorists and residents come home and they park. even though the pictures I presented in the report show it during the day, things get a little bit congested. So with looking at everything that was available in terms of past studies as well as the current data collection, there's a recommendation that we could enhance the safety by installing a red curb on the approaches to the intersection. Now, when you put the red curb in, there's a loss of going to be loss of a parking space at that on the approach there. The benefit, though, is that we'll have better open up the intersection for better visibility, so that the motorists approaching that intersection will have an opportunity to make a decision: do I stop? Okay to go through or not? And then for repetition, I repeated the Daylight Law Assembly Bill 413 for your reference, and it talks about the prohibiting stopping, standing a vehicle within 20 feet of the vehicle approach of any unmarked or marked intersection and 15 feet of a crosswalk. With that information in mind, the conclusion was to deny the always stop request that was made, since the MUTCD warrants were not met, and approve and recommend the installation of red curb to comply with the daylighting law, which in turn will enhance safety for the residents and other motorists using the intersection. And that more or less concludes my report, and happy to answer any questions that you may have relative to the report.
Any commissioners have questions?
Just from my own knowledge, when collecting these average daily or hourly totals, so what kind of techniques do you guys use?
They use a machine counter.
Okay.
Machine counters is what was used. When we do like a signal study, then we use manual turning movement count in addition to that. But for the always stop signs or stop sign warrant study, we use basically machine counters.
Okay, and that's just, is that is that placed on the street, and that's counting the number of vehicles that cross the?
Yes, the vendors can use two different methods. Some use video. They'll ask for permission to put videos up on a pole. They take the video, then they take it back to their office, and then they count the cars. The other is to put hoses down on the pavement as such, and then as the car goes over the tubes, that impulse gets put into a counter on the side of the road, and then they take it back to the office, and you unload the information that's stored in the chip, and then the program will print out what the volumes were.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No. I went down and checked out a place out. I went down to the street. I seen how it is. Myself, I was wondering why they don't have red curves anyway with paint on the curves, because it is you can drive it to the front, but if you have where car parks, you can't see either way.
Right.
My recommendation is I like the red on the curves instead.
Yeah. It's a visual. I think motorists can see the visual paint that are, you can see it.
Exactly.
So just to clarify, the recommendations from staff are, first, receive and file an always stop sign study for the intersection of 6th Street and Walnut Avenue. Secondly, approve the city traffic engineer's recommendation to deny the request for an always stop sign at this intersection. And as mentioned by Mr. Barnes, approve the city traffic engineer's recommendation to install red curb at the intersection approaches at 6th Street and Walnut Avenue. The traffic commission may consider a motion. I motion to approve item number 2.
I'll second it.
We have a motion to approve this item by Commissioner LaRocca, seconded by Chair Beas. I will now commence roll call. Commissioner Takayama?
Yes.
Commissioner LaRocca?
Yes.
Commissioner Hernandez?
Yes.
Chair Beas?
Yes.
This motion passes.
Okay, we'll go ahead and do Item 3, always stop signs on Roseview and, what is it, Roosevelt and 6th Street.
Thank you, Chair Bias. So a recommendation in front of the Traffic and Safety Commission today is to receive and file an always stop sign study for the intersection of 6th Street and Roosevelt Avenue. Approve city traffic engineer's recommendation to deny the request for an always stop sign at this intersection. And finally, approve city traffic engineer's recommendation to install red curb at the intersection approaches of 6th Street and Roosevelt Avenue. And Mr. Dennis Barrs, traffic engineer, will provide you with further clarification on this item.
All right, thank you. Like the previous one, there's this report that I presented, listed as item 3, talks about some of the background information. Again, it goes back and refers to extraction of the material contained in the Manual of Uniform Control Devices, referred to as the MUTCD. Again, repeating the same criteria, the 5 or more reported accidents in a 12-month period. It talks about, it repeats the minimum traffic volumes that are required to meet the criteria. The 300 vehicles entering from both directions for the major for 8 hours. And then for the minor street, in the same 8 hours, you have to have 200 vehicles, bikes or peds or vehicles. And with a caveat for any reduction. I included one graphic to give you an aerial view of where the location is, so it would be easier to look at the results. In terms of the analysis of the data that was collected by the vendor, the traffic volume criteria were not met, the warrants were not met. And also, I didn't mention, but that data is summarized and is an attachment referred to as Attachment A. You can reference or cross-reference what I'm reporting here. The collision data, again, we used the TIMS program, and again, no accidents were reported at the intersection. Like the prior intersections, again, alluding to the new daylighting law, we can enhance the visibility at the intersection by adding red curb. It just opens it up, and it gives you the motorist an opportunity to have a better view to make a decision whether I come to a stop or I'm able to proceed through the intersection. So with that in mind, the recommendations were presented as mentioned by the director in the beginning, and now that open that up to any discussions or questions that you may have relative to this intersection and the recommendations made.
Does any commissioner have anything?
Yes, I have one question. Well, actually, just a comment on the agenda, on the report. The analysis said the counts were taken December 2025. I think that's a typo.
Yes. That is a typo. I'll acknowledge that it should be 24.
Yeah, thank you.
For the record, it should be stated as corrected.
And then one more question, actually. So the new daylighting law says that prohibiting parking within 20 feet, and I just want to double check. We're suggesting painting curbs at 25 feet. I'm just curious why the difference in there.
Well, again, those are minimums. So a judgment is you look out there, and it would be, you could perhaps give a better, enhance the safety a little bit more by increasing it. And so the diagram that was included in the packet gives you an overview as to, by extending it a little bit more based on the conditions out there, it would be better to have a little more than, those are, again, minimums. It's not an absolute value.
Thank you for the clarification. That's all I have.
That's the industrial place right there, right?
I'm sorry?
That's in the industrial corner where they do the clothing, or I missed something. I'm looking at the aerial.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay.
Yes, Commissioner, that's Fleischman's.
It is?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have, anyone
Oh.
wants to prove,
Mhm.
any other questions on this? Okay. Yeah, let's go ahead and attempt a motion on this.
I'll motion to approve.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion to approve this item by Commissioner LaRocca, seconded by Chair Bayes. I will now commence roll call. Commissioner Takayama?
Yes.
Commissioner LaRocca?
Yes.
Commissioner Hernandez?
Yes.
Chair Bayes?
Yes.
This motion passes.
Okay, we'll go to the next item, item 4, which is the four-way stops intersection on 3rd Street in Los Angeles.
Thank you very much, Chair Bias. Recommendation in front of our Traffic and Safety Commission this evening is to receive and file an all-way stop sign study for the intersection of 3rd Street and Los Angeles Avenue. Approve city traffic engineer's recommendation to deny the request for an all-way stop sign at the intersection. Approve city traffic engineer's recommendation to refresh the existing red curb markings at the intersection approach of 3rd Street and Los Angeles Avenue. For further discussion on this item, Mr. Dennis Barnes, traffic engineer, will provide additional commentary.
Yes, thank you, Cesar. Again, for this particular report, provided some background discussion like the prior reports to be consistent with what the criteria is used to evaluate the request for a stop sign. Again, continuing with the next second page of the report, repeating the accident criteria as well as the traffic volume requirements that are required. Investigation, the next section of the report, with the field review, the site distance and physical obstructions, the review of the collision history and so forth. That's pretty much a standard parameter, and when we do an investigation for the request, be a stop sign or an all-way stop. Talk about the existing conditions. I provided some aerial view of the intersection as well as the street approaches to give an overview. So when you're reviewing the material, you have a better view of the location. As you can see at this one, depending on the time of day, is open for the most part, the intersection. But when it gets later in the afternoon and weekends and evening, of course, it gets more congested and there's the visibility becomes a little bit reduced. And so again, looking at the volumes, which is in attachment A, for the 8 hours, you can see it does not meet the criteria that's required. And the minor street as well does not meet the 200 vehicles or bikes or peds. In terms of the collision data, using the TIMS program, there were no accidents at the intersection, indicating there's not a safety problem at this point in time. The conclusion was to arrive at the recommendations as stated earlier by the director, deny the request for the all-way stop, and then receive the report, of course, but approve a recommendation to refresh the existing red curb at the intersection approaches.
On this particular intersection, are they, so they're refreshing the red curbs, but they're going to extend the red curbs?
No, this
For
particular
clarification.
location, I did not make a recommendation to extend the red curb. Because there is existing red curb present.
So, Mr. Barnes, just to clarify, so just refreshing the record because you believe it's adequate sightline as is, right? So that's why you're
Yes,
not-
that's correct, right. So I'd like to just make a general comment. Once those changes are made in the field, the next step by the traffic engineer is to actually go out in the field after it's done and review each of these intersections to see is it accomplishing what the initial issue was that we thought was visibility? If there's a need for additional markings or that, then I would bring it back to the commission for further consideration.
Anyone else?
Yeah, so looking at the pictures, I see that looking north, figure 2. So as you can see from that image, there's a car pretty obstructing the view of the crosswalk there. So, and I noticed there's no existing red curb there. So I wonder if we might want to add some red curb there on the north side, north facing, because that car is blocking.
If the certainly, the commissioner could recommend to be consistent with the daylight law, and then you could suggest that staff verify that there's at least the 15 or 20 feet on each approach, and if not, it would be increased to that amount. That's certainly within the prerogative of the commissioner can do that.
I have a question on that. I travel 3rd Street 20 times a day. I drive up 3rd Street. Los Angeles has become a freeway.
Okay.
Lately. I mean, I'm talking about from 4th Street to 3rd, from 4th to Bluff. They're racing through that area. I can't even cross. I had members of the community there ask me about that. Why don't we have a 4-way stop sign there when we can't even cross it? It takes us a while just to get across because people don't stop. Instead of stopping there, they're blocking it because they want to go next to all the way to Bluff. They want to keep a line going. So they haven't asked about the having a stop sign there. You talk about red curves, there is a red curves there on going on 3rd Street. There's one at the corner. Well, and you can see them if you go there. The only one that you can't see is that one they talk about, the one where the white car is.
Yes.
Okay, that's the only one you can't see. Everyone else that lives there won't even park it close there because why? Because of the traffic. It's congested. If you go by there anytime from 3 to 6 o'clock, good luck if you cross the street in your car or walking. Because Los Angeles become a freeway ever since they've been stopped. I mean, that's not the only part of Los Angeles, there's other Los Angeles streets also, where they're racing. They come down, you go up 4th Street from Olympic, make a right turn, and step on it. Because that's the only stop sign you have there is 4th Street. No other stop sign, except you go over the other way, back to 7th Street, there's a stop sign there. So, myself, I would go ahead and deny that myself. I want a stop sign. My neighbors in the area, the community in the area can't even get out to get out there. So I would like to recommend that let's have this study done again. Let's go out there between those hours and see if there is a cars going by. Accidents, I don't know why you guys don't have accidents there, because I've seen accidents. I personally seen accidents there. And I don't understand how you guys don't find them there. I mean, nobody wants to send, they just change their information, see they're buying. There hasn't been enough accidents where you have to call the officers in or paramedics in. We're looking about that. But that, myself, I would deny it. That's my point of view. Why? Because 20 times a day, I'll tell you, I go up there. That's my way out of my gate. I don't go to 4th Street because 4th Street's a mess anyway. Coming from the 4th Street, they don't stop at the signs on 4th and Olympic. They don't even stop there and make their turns and their left sort of thing. So I go 3rd. I'll take a chance going through 3rd Street and try and get through 4th Street, try and get an exit there. So I would go ahead and.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, yeah, I mean, to the benefit of the commission. So, I mean, the difficult part for us as a municipality and staff that's doing their job. I mean, we have existing regulations that really govern the criteria, right? So, for example, and Mr. Barnes, just a correction, like Mr. Roca mentioned, on the average daily traffic study assuming it's, again, 2024, right? It says 2025, right? So the
That's
collections
correct.
were done between December 10th and December 12th of 2024, right? Now, the way the criteria is, we have to take the average counts over a 24-hour period, right? So for example, I'm sure you're correct on those peak times. Yeah, it's really, really bad. Unfortunately, that it doesn't allow us to just measure those specific times, right? It always has to be within a 24-hour period. And then based on those numbers, and not our criteria, again, this is accessory regulations, it wouldn't meet that number. Now, the other important factor to note, Mr. Barnes saying it says collection data, I'm assuming it says September 30th, 2022, and it's September 30th through 2024, right? Not 2025? So over a 2-year period now, I believe there was accidents, maybe they weren't reported, right? We have to go based on the data that's reported to us as a municipality. But we hear the commission, we know this intersection well. Maybe as a middle ground, maybe we can ask the police department if we can have a little bit of additional enforcement during those peak times. What ends up happening, it's learned behavior, right? Hopefully, we can, now we don't say specifically when we do it, right, for the purpose of the public, but maybe let us work with the police department, our traffic folks to do a little bit more enforcement during those peak hours. Hopefully it changes the behavior a little bit more, and like everything else, like Mr. Barnes mentioned, we evaluate these changes that we make to see if they achieve the goal. So we're happy to revisit this in the future. Just right now, we don't know if there's a justification for us to redo this work because we don't know if those numbers will really be changed. But I would also say allow us to try to use other tools, specifically having more enforcement during those peak hours, and hopefully starts to train a little bit more the speeding that is happening on the intersection, in lieu of not being able to recommend a 4-way stop sign, because we don't have the evidence for us to actually make that justification at this point. Would you be open to that?
No.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
I mean, I'm truthful.
Okay. No, yeah, I mean, we're at the discretion of Traffic and Safety Commission, so, I mean, you let us know how you want to proceed. We have our
I want to go
recommendation.
ahead and go, like I said, go and look over it again. I seen when they put the black, the counters.
The tubes.
We're there, yeah, we seen them, not only me, but one of the gentlemen here had seen that before.
Okay.
We seen them counting up there.
Okay.
And we're looking at this, and we're going, okay, these are the hours. Why can't we have some of those hours count between those hours? See how many you get across. I mean, like I said, it's not that, it's for the safety of the public. We're traffic and safety, and I think that's a point of mine. We need to go ahead and go back and look at that.
Okay.
That's my point of view. I'm looking at, like I said, the community there. They got the ones that counts because it was right. I mean, it's like the one we had on Olympic. Officer was there. We had a car go through up to in the garage. I mean, he flew through the garages, to 2 garages. Why? Because they don't listen. They don't look at besides the guy being loaded. You read that? There's still the stop signs there. It's really, I mean, myself, I'd go back and look at that one more time. Why? I said, the public safety. That's the reason I have there.
Understood. So you may then, you may want to reject the recommendations for now of the staff, and then you may want to make a motion to direct staff to once again reevaluate this intersection. Is that what you're?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Even for the additional red curbs, because if you look at this image on page 4, you see that the car is already sticking out. So as they're gonna turn here, I would, that would be confusing to me.
Because when you're looking at the cars going north to south, not east and west. East and west had red curves.
Yeah.
But again, people
Too close to the corners.
Going east, they're stepping on it. Why? They go to Bluff, they got a 5-hour wait on Bluff just to go down to Washington. I mean, so people, we have the fire department try to get by there. You can't because it's conditioned, it's really tight. it's like 2 lanes.
For myself, I'm looking at the criterion. I'm looking at the 80% of the minimum values, right? Because I'm looking at this via the data that was provided. And I also wondering in terms of what other tools, right, do we use in terms of data to measure, to making sure that within the report that all safety issues in that intersection are being addressed. So I'm just wondering in terms of any other tools in addition to the provided single criterion that is indicated in the report.
Mr. Barnes, I don't know if do you want to talk about if there's other tools we use to measure this, or is this the standard that we use to determine whether or not we can put in a stop sign?
In terms of safety, the commission has the authority, of course, if they want to request a stop sign be installed, and they have that authority to do so. Even though I didn't recommend one, but you collectively have the authority to recommend it if you believe that was in the best safety of the residents. That's within your prerogative.
Thank you.
Yeah, I recommend that we have stop signs instead of Terry Tree.
Right.
On my point, I'm just doing it for the people that live there. People trying to cross the street.
Chair Baez, if I don't, and Mr. City Manager, if I may interject too, a lot of times we do have under the City Council Municipal Code or under the city's municipal code the ability to go in front of City Council and request a stop sign. So I would also recommend that if it is up to the Traffic and Safety Commission, that we do bring this item stating the fact that the Traffic and Safety Commission is in favor of adding a stop sign at this intersection. So this would also protect the city, similar to any sort of project that we take out to bid, with the permission of the city manager.
So just to be clear, they wouldn't be recommending installing. They would be recommending. Well, they would be recommending installing, but it has to be up to City Council. Now, the reason he's saying that, with the absence of the city attorney, there is liability issues in terms. That's a city that we take on when we make decisions outside of the data that's provided. So, again, the city attorney not being here, yeah, I agree with the Mr. Roldan's recommendation. If you want to go forward in recommending a four-way stop sign here, with the approval that goes to approval for the City Council ultimately.
I make a motion to deny and recommend the installation of the always stop to City Council.
I second it.
We have a motion to deny this item by Chair LaRocca, seconded by Commissioner Takayama, to bring this item to City Council for their final approval. I will now commence roll call. Commissioner Takayama?
Yes.
Commissioner LaRocca?
Yes.
Commissioner Hernandez?
Yes.
Chair Baez?
Yes.
This motion passes. This item will be rejected and taken to council.
Thank you.
And of course, we'll report back to the Traffic Commission in the future whenever it does go to council. Okay?
Okay, let's go to item 5, please. Additional stop bars and stop signs, southeast corner of Vale and Mines.
Thank you very much, Chair Baez. The recommendation in front of the Traffic and Safety Commission is to take the following action. Add a stop sign and stop bar pavement legend on the southeast corner of Vale Avenue and Mines Avenue as a temporary measure to alleviate the California Public Utilities Commission concerns. A little bit of background about this. So the San Gabriel Valley Council of Government, in conjunction with Alameda Quarter East, they have been working on the design and concurrent construction of the grade separation project, which was authorized through the state. This project is both federally and state funded, and so it has also been approved by our city council. As you know, this project is going to alleviate traffic on Montebello at the railroad tracks, both at Olympic and at UPRR railroad tracks. So this project is going to be lasting roughly 48 months, almost 4 years. What we had is the California Public Utilities Commission staff. They're responsible to oversee highway rail and the safety of the rail. They came in January 31st of 2025. They took a look at several crossings, specifically focusing on Maple, Vale, and Greenwood. And then in this specific location, they noticed that there was a lot of issues with regards to vehicles queuing on the railroad tracks, which is obviously is dangerous. And then part of the recommendation that they came into was informing that there was safety concerns that they had, and basically violations that the city had at some of these 3 locations. So we worked together with the San Gabriel Valley COG, AECOM, who's the consultant that San Gabriel Valley COG has hired to oversee the construction of the project, along with their design engineer, Moffitt and Nickel. The CPUC, their enforcement branch, evaluated the crossing at Vale Avenue, and they recommend that in order for us to alleviate some of the concerns at the railroad tracks is to install a stop sign on what would be the southeast corner of Mines and Vale Avenue. Just to let you know that this project had already been approved back in 2020, and then in the subsequent years, 21 and 22. So in front of our Traffic and Safety Commission, even though this was technically already approved by City Council, I wanted to bring this in front of the Traffic and Safety Commission for your ultimate approval. What this does is it will allow for southbound Vale traffic to continue without being interrupted by northbound traffic, as there's also a school there on the northeast corner of Mines and Vale Avenue. The stop sign will allow for traffic to flow southbound without any issues, and then allow traffic to flow eastbound on Mines. With that recommendation is the approval of an addition of stop sign and stop bar pavement legend on the southeast corner of Vale Avenue and Mines Avenue as a temporary measure to alleviate the CPUC's concerns. With that being said, if there are any further questions, I would gladly answer those.
I have a question. Since I know the area and I know that there's that the elementary school, the school there for children. So if this stop sign is there, I'm just wondering if what about the safety of the children? Will there be an additional crossing guard that will be then provided for the safety of the children and the parents? Because I know that it's a high traffic area, and that's one of the biggest concerns in South Montebello, especially with that school.
Yes.
That's a wondering I have.
Chief, do you want to talk about the crossing guards?
Yes, Commissioner. When it comes to the crossing guards, we work with the school police and they identify the schools that they feel are the most congested or the most highly used. It is certainly something we can take back to MUSD and certainly work with our traffic unit to monitor the intersection and see if it warrants us looking at the contract and adding an additional crossing guard in that location.
And if I may I add to that, if it goes back to must, or something where also I know that our school police would normally train parent volunteers as well, and I know that sometimes parent volunteers also support with those efforts of safety, just so that way it's brought back to our school district, just in the event that it doesn't warrant the crossing guard, but we just exploring other areas, so that way there is support at that stop sign.
I had a question just for clarification. What is a stop bar? What is that?
The stop bar is the pavement marking that pretty much informs motorists to stop at that limit line.
Kind of like that.
And just to add a further clarification, before Commissioner Hernandez, the commission had kind of gone back and forth with a lot of the red curb that was placed on Mines at the request of the school. So the previous traffic engineer and staff had been working with the principal over several months, and then working to actually have parents drop off their children on the school premises. And so everything is flowing that much better. It's helped increase safety according to the school principal as well.
Yeah.
So we've been, or school staff has informed us. So it's important that the stop sign be installed in order to ensure that there isn't any sort of stopping at the railroad tracks. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I thank you for including the voice, especially of the school and the school leader, the school administrator, because there's great feedback in those that are leading firsthand. That way they can be also inclusive and part of the decision-making process. Thank you.
Any more comments?
No comment.
We'll go ahead and,
I'll motion to approve item number 5.
I'll second that.
We have a motion to approve this item by Commissioner LaRocca, seconded by Chair Beas. I will now commence roll call. Commissioner Takayama?
Yes.
Commissioner LaRocca?
Yes.
Commissioner Hernandez?
Yes.
Chair Beas?
Yes.
This motion passes.
Go to the next item, item 6. Notifies the striping and parking on Greenwood Avenue and Olympic.
Thank you very much, Chair Baez. The recommendation in front of the Traffic and Safety Commission is to take the following action. San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments to make the proper modifications to the existing striping and red curb at the Greenwood Avenue and Olympic Boulevard intersection to alleviate the California Public Utilities Commission concerns. Once again, this is similar to item number 5. The CPUC came in and reviewed also the intersection of Greenwood and the railroad tracks. Once again, because of the grade separation project, they noticed that there was great concern for vehicles stopping on the railroad tracks as heavy rail is ingressing to that specific area. As we spoke between San Gabriel Valley COG and their engineering staff of record, what we are recommending, and this is also once again based on approved plans that were approved by the CPUC, approved by the state, approved through the federal level as well, and approved by our city council, is the addition of red curb on the segment of Greenwood Avenue, south of Olympic. Now, we understand that our public works yard is located on the west side of the street. On the east side of the street, we have newer living spaces. With that being said, there are vehicles that park on that segment of Greenwood, south of Olympic. However, the plan would be to allow for additional queuing just in case the railroad tracks kind of close down, and that allows vehicles to go through the intersection or at the railroad tracks. But in order for us to alleviate some of the addition of red curb on Greenwood, we would actually remove and white out some of the red that's on Olympic on the south east corner, just east of Greenwood. And then some of the striping modification would allow for vehicles to continue to go east and allow the residents to park on the Olympic Boulevard side. So we would end up having the same amount of vehicles parking and then not take up so much space on Greenwood. A slight modification would also be to add red curb on the southwest corner, Olympic and Greenwood, to allow for right turn and allow for the flow of traffic. Once again, this original plan was approved by our city council back in 2021-22. And that concludes my report. If there's any questions, I would gladly answer those questions.
I just have a wondering in terms of the modifications on Olympic Boulevard, how long would that take? Because I'm just wondering about the impact on the residents, or how long will the stripping modification on Olympic Boulevard take?
Are you talking about, well, as soon as we start, or how long will those improvements kind of last?
As soon as you, well, that's great. How long, as soon as you start, and then how long will the duration of the project be?
Great question. Thank you so much. So as soon as there's a vote by our Traffic and Safety Commission, the CPUC is requesting that we immediately take care of these concerns. And so what's nice about it is technically some of these concerns belong to the city. However, the San Gabriel Valley COG recognizes that the city has a need to perform this work as fast as possible. So they have their contractor working on these improvements as soon as it's approved by the Traffic and Safety Commission. Like I previously stated, this was approved previously by City Council. However, it's been a while, and I wanted to bring this information up to our Traffic and Safety Commission. And these enhancements will last while the project is being constructed. However, at some future point in time, I will come back with a report to our Traffic and Safety Commission whereby the city had applied for quiet zones. And the quiet zones will then have four, if you could picture at the intersection, they'll have four kind of like arms that will come down. So that won't allow for any vehicles or crossings whatsoever. So that will make it extremely safe. And with that being said, then the train won't, honk its horn for the mile stretch before it gets to this location. But again, that's not going to happen until further down the line as the grade suppression project progresses on Montebello.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Sorry if you already said this, just to clarify, so some of these red curbs are just temporary for the construction, and then some of it can be returned to parking for the residents?
Yes, sir. Exactly. So, on Greenwood, so on the west side, it's already red curb, but on the east side, it's not. So at some point in time, we will go ahead and remove the red curb.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Do good and just.
I'd like to go with a motion to approve this item.
I second the motion.
We have a motion to approve this item by Commissioner LaRocca, seconded by Commissioner Hernandez. I will now commence roll call. Commissioner Takayama?
Yes.
Commissioner LaRocca?
Yes.
Commissioner Hernandez?
Yes.
Chair Baez?
Yes.
This motion passes.
Do we have any council orals on this right now? I did. I am doing. Okay. Okay. I have one on via Wilcox and Via Paseo. You know where you go down, you have that. It's only a right turn. They put it on the ground till you make a right turn. You can stand there and count all the left turns in the morning and how many left turns on the coming off to Wilcox. It was last Friday. Had a guy make a left turn. The guy went right ahead and pushed all the way to the curb. I mean, he hit the curb and he went after the guy, but he ain't gonna catch that car. That guy already hit the curb. They're not stopping there. Everything there is it's supposed to be a right turn only. They're making left turns so hard. And I mean, it's like a train. When they all line up together and make a left-hand turn. They're rushing it. Why? The school's on. You got Sheer High School right there. And I'm saying, I mean, I see people just flying. They go ahead, you have the curve, it has a right turn only on the ground. Is there anything to bring it above where they can see it? I think people, they're blind or dumb. Because it's really getting too ridiculous. I see this every day. Like I said, I'm at Wilcox, I'm at Greenwood, I cross all, there's another street. 5 times, 6 times a day, I gotta go through that street. And I look at this and I go, why did we approve that a couple months ago to make it left-hand turn only? I mean, right-hand turn only. It's still a shortcut. I don't care what they're thinking. They're making that a shortcut to get to Wilcox, to the freeway, go across instead of going all the way to Garfield then. And then making right turn. So I just wanted, if we could check up on that too. Have someone there and look at it because it's really get bad. I mean, this morning, good thing traffic light. I went by there again this morning. And sure thing, people wait in line, make it up there. Then sometimes they don't even make a line. They just hurry up and try to get across. The cars are coming from the Shear High School down or coming up. They're coming in front of them just to make that a turn. So we go back and check at that. Have a check out there. Make it up or put the a sign there saying right turn only. So that's the only thing I have to say. And back to about the crosswalk. I know about the crossing guards out there. I've been fighting for a crossing guard at different school also. I went to talk to Garcia, that from the school district. I guess he's Chief Garcia or an Officer Garcia. Whole thing goes, he comes out, we have to go with Montebello Police Department. That they both have to pay for it. I go, it's a school thing. Why couldn't the school pay for a crossing guard in these areas? I mean, the other schools get them. Go to Seminar Park. They have them. The city takes care of them. Why? Because they're children. And that's the only thing I have to say. Anyone else? And then
We're happy to add it to the queue and look at it and report back.
thank you. That's it? Yeah. Okay. I'd like to agenda this meeting. It's with 6:58. Thank you very much.
Thank you.